The record button. It's great to have everybody here. It is June 7th, June 8th. And this is the CHAOSS metrics model meeting. So whoever is sharing their screen, thank you for doing such a thing. I'm guessing it's Sean.
Yep.
If you could take a minute and just add yourself to the meeting minutes if you'd like, that'd be great. All right. Today, the question in the CHAOSS community call was, if you had a chance to go to outer space, would you go?
Elizabeth was the only one who wasn't gung-ho to go to space.
Yeah, so if you had a chance to go in a rocket into outer space, would you do it?
Hell yes.
So if you feel like answering whether or not you'd go to outer space in this, you can do that as well. So just a kind of a note, we're not going to have a meeting on the 21st of June. So this is going to be, it's the meeting 2 weeks from today.
Yeah.
We keep things going async, but this is the week of OSS Summit North America in Austin. And we kind of end up kind of going a variety of different ways. And so we're going to actually take two weeks off. So it's going to be from meetings. So it's going to be the June, and we'll announce it, but June 20th and then the week of June 27th. So both of those weeks, we'll be back the 5th of July after the weekend. So,
okay.
Yeah, so just kind of a little period there. All right. I would like to, on the metric model proposal, if there's something anybody would like to add, that'd be fine, but I'd like to kind of table that discussion for just a little bit, if that's okay.
Yep. Actually, I added this thing because I, after last meeting, we discussed and give a new proposal based on the discussion during the meeting and also the discussion on the Slack.
Okay.
So should we open it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Open link.
You want to tell us what you changed, Yohei?
Is this the right panel to be on?
Yeah. Actually, we have discussed a little bit on last Asia Pacific meeting last week, but I would like to reintroduce the again.
Okay.
Yeah. So here, this is the new proposal of the repo structure. And we would have a matrix model libs, which would include all the matrix model we defined in past several months. And you can see that it contains all the different kind of matrix model we defined for each of the single matrix model. We have this structure like this. We have definition folder, or markdown file. We will follow the matrix model template we might define actually, and to say, okay, how many metrics and the background and the data, some data inside for this matrix model. And we would have another folder to contain the implementations. It would contains multiple possible implementations for this single matrix model. For example, we have one matrix model at community activity. We're using Linux distribution open source community, this data site to verify this matrix model. So under this Linux distribution folder, we will contain algorithm, data inside, and data like we define today. And also we may have some other real-world community implementations. So we can add more folders or implementation under this metrics model.
So these would be actual worked examples on concrete communities as opposed to templates that would be applied.
Exactly.
Is that right?
Exactly.
Okay. And is it fair to say that the algorithms and the data are is the data the primary thing that would differ in these two structures?
I think we can define using JSON file for different implementations or CSV files format.
Okay. I'm thinking, would I be wrong to think that for each of these two communities, the algorithm would probably be roughly the same?
Probably,
And the
probably.
data insight would be roughly the same. I suppose if you're having to reach out to, in the case of the Linux kernel, it's not principally distributed on GitHub, so you might have a slightly different data collection algorithm.
Actually, we didn't collect for this example. We didn't collect the Linux kernel from it. We actually collect the Linux distributions.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on
All
the
right.
it's all the Git repository.
Okay.
It's
And
shared
then
the same way.
under each of these other categories, you would effectively have the same structure where
Exactly.
so under metrics model libs, there's this metrics model template. Is that the definition of the metrics model itself?
Exactly.
For
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
And okay. And if the metrics, would the metrics model itself then be defined under these metric model libs?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So those are, I think, the link to the template, the definition, the way I understand it, that's like it's the markdown file fundamentally that describes, it's the thing that has the metrics in it. It's the thing
Right.
it's that thing.
Right. But we wouldn't, this wouldn't be the actual template. It would be the filled out template for this metric. Okay. Model. Got it.
Yep.
And for focusers over here, what do we do? What is map this for my feeble mind?
Actually, in the right part, it's we call it focus areas. We would select a different metrics model from left part libs to build different focus areas. For example, we discussed the ecosystem. We would like to using one markdown file to contain part of the matrix model selected from the libs, and not all the libs would not all the matrix model would be included into the ecosystem because not all of them are suitable for this ecosystem structure. So here we also using a markdown file to describe the different dimensions like productivity, robustness, and niche. In each of the single dimensions, we will include some metrics model we defined in the libs. And if you select click the next
like
slide,
this.
you can see, yes,
this is
the markdown file. Yep. This ecosystem actually described why we include the different metrics model or select the different metrics model into this markdown file ecosystem as ecosystem. So all the single, every single links of metrics model actually linked to the libs. We don't have to redefine it here. This is just a single markdown file.
Okay.
And also we have references to say how we define this metrics model. Do we have any references? So at least some papers, we think it's useful to understand the whole ecosystem concept.
Okay. This makes sense. So if we reorganize the repository this way, then I think it would be, if we had an example in the repo for metrics models, then we could probably pretty naturally begin working this way.
Yep. If you go back to,
go back. I was going to say, go back there too. Go ahead, Yehui. Go ahead, Yehui.
Yeah. Except for the ecosystem markdown file, we may have some other aspect to reorganize the some metrics models. That's pretty fun. So in the next example, we can see we also could have culture or topology markdown file. It could include some metrics model suitable for these areas. And yeah, and in the left corner, we have picture here.
This one here?
No, left corner. Left
corner.
Maybe bottom. Bottom.
Okay, left bottom. Got it. This here.
Yep. 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 So you can say that for the different focus areas, they could share the same metrics model if they think they can reuse that.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And in the right part, we also discussed in the corner. Yeah.
Yep.
Tagging each metric model.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we can add different tags for this metrics model to make it flexible to suitable for different scenarios, and it would display it on the website in the future. We can use a YAML file to define that.
So effectively bringing these two pieces together, the metrics models and the focus areas kind of create a graph. So it's not so much a structured hierarchy, but it's a graph where I can have ecosystem tags on multiple different metric models, and they can be incorporated into these different focus areas, etc.
Yeah, actually, in the website, you can use some filter by the tags to filter out what you would like to say upon your community's scenarios background.
I'm following. So should I jump to a different slide, or?
I have one comment and one question for you, Yehui. So the first question is, Sean, on the left side here, where it says metrics model template. So if you look at that template and you scroll down a little bit, the template includes data insights. And so if you go back to the slide deck, Sean, where that template currently sits, would we just kind of draw broad insights in that markdown file, in that template file?
So we define conceptual data insights that the model is seeking to expose.
But if we have more than one, which one goes into the template?
Could we just create just the link reference to this folder from the template? I mean, we created two.
Because like if we look at Linux distributions, the insights that might be gained could be different than the insights gained in other implementations.
Yeah.
And so how would we capture that in a single like top level definition of the metric model?
I think if we have multiple implementations, we have multiple data insight based on the different communities. We can add this data insight links to the metrics model template as definitions to say, okay, we have multiple examples.
And just specify it there. Okay, that's fine. Then I should probably mark that in the template that this could be multiple. You know what I mean? There could be multiple insights drawn. And then, go ahead.
In my head, conceptually at least, the data insights are conceptually the same or very similar, regardless of the implementation. Like they're categorically.
They probably should be. I would think they could.
Like I wouldn't expect them to diverge.
No, I wouldn't
mean completely different things.
I think maybe we can use one primary data insight added into the template, and add other. Afterwards we may add more implementations. We can just add it. I think add reference links into this data insight.
We were talking about this a little bit in the community call today, just with metrics themselves. We have an implementation section in our metrics, and we were just calling them kind of sample implementations. Like here's in the and maybe we could do something similar in the metric model template. Like here's one example implementation. There are others. You can go into this folder structure and see them in real life. But here's
Yeah.
one. Okay, that's fine.
So my understanding of that data insight file from the way Hui has talked about it in the past is that that's the Jupyter notebook.
Yeah.
So you see the code, you see the
Yes.
data visualization. It's the code and the data together and the visualization, and then also text through what you're seeing.
I think the algorithm also has code.
But yes, Kevin.
Yeah.
Yes,
It's a,
yes.
it's a very applied component.
Maybe we can just hide code and just copy the visualizations and data inside explanations into the definitions part at the data inside, and we keep the code
Oh
as
yeah, definitely.
Jupyter.
Yeah,
We
I
keep
agree.
the Jupyter code into the.
Yeah, 100% agree. Yep.
Yeah.
The comment then that I had too was I like this structure because it kind of solves it solves a problem that I was kind of struggling with when we left the last Asia Pacific or the metrics model call. The left side allows us to develop metrics models just to develop the metrics models by themselves, irrespective of how they are organized.
Yeah.
Like the box on the left it's related but independent to the box on the right.
Yep.
And so we can develop metrics models without 100% concern about the absolute proper naming and structure of the things on the right, which I like. So it allows us to advance the left and the right together, but they can be somewhat independent. And so then that allows us to really reflect on the right side a bit more, just in terms of the terminology, just in terms of how we bring these metrics together, or I'm sorry, how we bring the metrics models together. This helps me a lot because it allows us to create metrics models for a while, independent of how they are organized.
Yes.
Which is nice.
Extremely nice.
Well, because I think there's going to be a lot that goes into thinking about tagging, thinking about focus area, like that. There's a ton that goes in there, and it's nice to not be necessarily bound to that right away.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? To that organization.
Absolutely.
So that's good. Okay. All right. Cool.
Maybe ecosystem is the current way I think it's the best way to restructure the metrics model. But I do believe that in the future we may have more good focus areas or better focus areas.
Yep, I 100% agree. And the nice thing is we can build metrics models on the left, and then, for example, cultural anthropology may not be the word that we want to use, but it doesn't matter. You know what I mean?
Maybe it is.
And maybe it is, but at this point, it doesn't really get in the way of building metrics models, whether or not that's the right word. We don't have to get stuck on that, which is really nice.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, great. Thank you for thinking through this, Hui. This is really excellent.
Yeah. No, this is the old version.
Okay.
We discussed in the last meeting. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, cool.
If you think it's good, I can add the pull request. I can create a pull request to reorganize
I'd still like to hold off on the focus area part. The first part of it I'm completely comfortable with. I think it looks great. But the focus area part of it is the part I'm still having trouble with.
Well, how about we have them include the focus area part, and then we make the comments and the pull request and try to sort it out that way. Because I don't think what's being proposed actually works if we don't implement both of these things, because not including the focus areas would kind of obliterate the utility of the tags in a way. So instead of pondering this infinitely, I might suggest we have Yahui make the full pull request, and then we do comments on the pull request to try to resolve the understanding distinctions. It's a suggestion, not an order.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
What do you think, Kevin? Or you have some new ideas? So
I will just defer to Matt and Sean.
Well,
You don't have to defer, dude. I'm looking for a way to like keep this rolling without spending every metrics model meeting discussing it.
Right. So there's upcoming work with the knowledge base,
Right.
and then we're also trying to define what some of these terms mean across the working groups. And that stuff, that is an ongoing discussion. And this second part of the model, I don't know that it matches where I'm at with some of those things. So it's in my mind, it's premature to move forward with the focus areas because it doesn't necessarily fit with what I need for the knowledge base, or what Yash may need for the knowledge base.
So if Yahui called focus areas something else, like implementation areas or application areas, or
well, the problem is the way we organize and do work across working groups. So it's understanding what these terms mean and what they mean across the working groups. So
well, that's why I'm suggesting
just
if we use a different term.
Changing the name of it without a definition of what it is doesn't really help. It just kind of magnifies the problem.
to use focus areas, just I want to follow the same term definition as the other working group. If you think we may have some other better name for this term, I'm super fine for that, because I don't have any suggestions for this definition.
No, so I agree with you that focus area probably is the correct term. But the way that we understand a focus area is we need to have some collective shared understanding of what a focus area is. So focus area is probably correct, and it's probably the way that we're going to want to organize it. But one of the things that I think we need as an organization as a whole is focus areas that exist across working groups. So if each working group is defining their own focus areas, then the focus areas that we define here mean absolutely nothing in the common working group or the evolution working group. So that's why for me it's a bigger discussion, because it involves can we land on focus areas that can exist across the working groups.
So in terms of the taxonomy of chaos, I hear what you're saying. I think that it is important to have these common definitions. My challenge is the concept that is labeled focus area in this graph is closely intertwined with the metrics model libs in terms of how we implement things. And I don't want to hold up the creative process in this working group in the name of taxonomic consistency. I would rather use a different label for now and then refine it as the chaos level definition of what a focus area is comes into, pardon the pun, focus. And then we can sort of refine these names or what we call these things. But I think having whatever we call focus area, if we call it Bob, I think having Bob there is important for getting sort of some inertia going on the metrics model libs. Like I see them as interconnected. So like if I have people that I want to be doing metrics models this summer, and we do, I don't want those summer of code students to be hung up on this definitional thing or to start working in a different structure that we plan to obliterate. So I'd rather give it a placeholder name and press forward for the students who we're going to have working on these.
I'm not certain why they wouldn't be able to to build the metrics models without without knowing which focus area they go in.
So
Why is that needed?
Well, when you're building a metrics model, you're going to put those tags like in the lower right. And I think my thought process is when I start to tag my metrics model, that's going to start to organically surface whatever Bob or the focus area is over here. And so it becomes a kind of a bottom up where the definition of the metrics models and the tags that apply to them start to generate something in this categorical structure that I want to be able to name and point to. I mean, I guess we could just do the tags and the metric models and leave this. I suppose we could leave this for later, but I think it's going to come up sooner. I don't think we can buy the whole summer without having to have something in this space. That's my concern in terms of the students, because we've got probably 3 students working in this general space this summer.
So Kevin, do you have like right now I'm looking at a proposal from Yahoo for a structure. Do you have something similar that we could share? Because I do feel like we're stuck.
Yeah.
So
we
I have
get
those
here and we get stuck.
Right. So I have those slides that I've shared with you that starts to outline the definitions for some of these terms. And it also outlines organizationally how CHAOSS work is done.
So do you want to start bringing that
are
forward here and in the community call? Because we need to unstick this. Like every 2 weeks, we get the same discussion.
It doesn't seem like anyone wants to talk about it. So if it's...
That's not true. We talked about it in the last metrics model meeting. I'm working on the slide deck. We're talking about it right here.
Yeah. So I have the slide deck. I'd be happy to bring it forward. I can't bring it right now because I'm not on my computer. I'm on my phone.
Oh, okay. Is it something that's been shared before?
You've taken a peek at it once.
Okay. All right. So let me see if I can conjure it.
But I also want to talk about metrics models in this.
Yeah, I would too.
Model meeting.
Right on. And we're at half past.
I feel like we need to unstick this somehow. And Kevin, we are listening to you. Trust me.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have it handy. So I think I would like to ask, I guess I think we could handle this discussion asynchronously.
I have it handy. Kevin, do you mind if I put it in the chat?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. So there are in this model, this is a depiction of how the work we do is organized and how we can possibly organize it across working groups, across CHAOSS.
Can you make it a bit bigger, Sean?
I can, I think. If is that better? Worse?
Yeah, I guess it's fine.
Let me see if
it's a little hard to read the black on red.
Let me see if I can get rid of the.
Go to slideshow.
There we go.
Right. So this is how we organize our work and how the working groups can have a shared understanding of focus areas across working groups. So this is not how we would organize metrics for users or models for users. Those metric and model categorizations for users would be based dynamically on tagging, right? So we don't need to come up with a focus area that broadly describes, some sort of measurable phenomena. Focus areas here would describe a context, and then users of metrics would be able to find the categorizations and the phenomena that they want to measure through searches based on tagging. So basically what I'm saying is because because focus areas that describe some sort of measurable phenomena are so kind of arbitrary, I propose that we don't even try to define these categories, right? Rather than categories of measurable phenomena, we focus more on categories of context that describe context area. And then on the vertical, we have our working groups that we've chosen to be aligned with, which is it's kind of an arbitrary thing, but it's the way we work, right?
So, okay, so I haven't looked at this one too much. So what is focus area 3 at the bottom? Why is there a 3 there?
Those are it's just an example. There's nothing there currently.
Okay, so 3 is just a number. So a focus area contains models, which is what
Yes.
or metrics.
Or metrics, yeah, or possibly even implementations.
Yep, and so, but Yahui had proposed, how is this different than what Yahui had just proposed? That bottom part.
Yeah, I think the only difference with what Yahui proposed is that Kevin's suggesting that these tags ultimately do create this, what we're calling focus areas on this slide, organically.
Okay.
And Kevin's asking us to hold off on defining focus areas in this explicit way. But effectively, we'll be doing it, I would say, implicitly when we start tagging things.
Is that correct, Kevin?
Yes.
Does that sound correct, Yahui? Okay. All right.
Yes.
Okay.
So what I'm kind of asking across CHAOSS in general is for everyone to come together and agree on some focus areas that describe context areas where metrics and models might exist.
And those focus areas would be the same for every working group.
Yeah, and you don't have to use all of the focus areas, but it would be a shared collection of focus areas across working groups. Maybe it's 8, maybe it's 10.
Okay.
Maybe finally,
I don't know.
Go ahead, Yahui.
Yeah, maybe we can finally achieve this the final goal. But I think if we totally from the whole, I mean the members from the community if we achieve the agreement for the common focus areas, I would anticipate it gonna last a very long time. I don't think
the
we
deliberation
can
process.
Yeah.
I think Yahui's right. Like that deliberation could go on forever.
Possibly. So
there's job security, I guess.
I don't know that it would. I don't know that it would take as long as you think it would take, because a lot of the people that go to these working group meetings are the same people. So it's really a matter of getting consensus with a few key members from CHAOSS who attend all of these meetings. Right. And then additionally, I would say there's already some overlap in how this is done. So DEI, for example, their focus areas are very, very much based on context and describing a context area rather than a measurable phenomena. Common only has 4 focus areas, and all four of those focus areas describe a context area rather than measurable phenomena. So there's already 2 working groups that are doing that. So at that point, it's just a matter of agreeing to the terms and kind of that level of abstraction for the context area.
Oops.
So in the meantime, if we have to create focus areas here to organize this work, if we followed that general rule of here in this working group, if we followed the general rule of naming our focus area after the context that we're looking at, then when we do go to try to get that shared common name across focus areas, it might just be a matter of changing the name of the focus area because it already fits pretty easily with something that already exists or that we've decided.
Yep. So then I wonder, I still think then that maybe with this, oh, Shoya, go ahead.
From my understanding, what we wish to achieve is a label system that both apply for metrics and metrics models. And I wonder if it's possible that we can maintain like something like a markdown file to collect what we have for the name of all focus area for now. And
It's a really good idea.
yeah.
Keep going. Sorry.
Yes, that's what I want to say. And if I understand this right, this label system allows a single metric or a metric model to have several to apply, like it can be under multiple focus areas. So it's more like a label to me.
So for the way that we work, a metric or a model would belong to a focus area and a working group. And the only reason it would belong in that categorization or that organization is because that's where the work was done. Right? So
yeah, go ahead.
So we would still organize it by working group and focus area, which we do now. However, there would be a common focus area across the working groups. As far as the categorization and organization for people who are interested in finding these models, that categorization and organization would all be done dynamically based on tagging.
I would agree.
And I
Okay.
think all Shoya was suggesting is that we create this list of current focus
Yeah,
areas.
the current ones, I think.
They can kind of
and
seed the
definitely.
tags. I can seed the tags.
Okay. Questions for Kevin right now. I'm getting a lot of agreement. I heard
I have one question. So if you Sean, can you go to the Kevin slide?
Yep. Yes, I can.
So for example, if I take I'm trying to understand, like if I take example of place, does place as a context apply to the common DI evolution value everywhere, or risk, like in all the working groups, does the same context apply?
Not all, but in this highlighted version, common DEI and metrics models all have operationalizations of place.
Okay, and then
that would be the goal.
C does not have this.
Yeah, Kevin said that you would come up with whatever 10 focus areas, and one working group could use all 10 in theory, or they could use 3.
Okay, so then that means we are increasing the context and providing that context to every working group, if I'm understanding it correctly.
That's correct.
Okay. And this, okay.
Yeah, I think the only working group where this is kind of holding us up is if in metrics models, because I think it's been pretty deeply contemplated here. And Yahui, if we use tags without defining these focus areas, will that work for now, or does that make it kind of hard?
I think it's not conflict with each other.
Okay.
Because all the metrics model we define as the initial idea, it's based on in practice, we use it for the different scenarios.
Right.
We cannot to say, okay, this is the definition I define. I have to make it common to force other people to use that. Mm-hmm. But this is the real example of best practice from some background or practice. So that's why we make it more flexible, and more people would add their real case into our communities. If we only add these tags, without any explanations and background, it would.
So go ahead.
Yeah, I still need a markdown files to describe why I need to include all the different kind of matrix model into this markdown file. I gave these explanations.
So
and
these focus areas are context, important context around the tags. The tags themselves are not descriptive enough or full enough.
Yeah, only the tags is not good enough. I mean, the information is not enough to understand what does it mean, because under each of single short term like goals, productivity, what it means, it could mean a different thing under the different context. So I have to use in something like focus areas or context areas to explain that.
I think listening to Kevin talk and to you talk, I mean, ecosystem seems like a potential context.
Mm-hmm.
Also looking at
yes, I agree with that.
The list that you had. And so maybe Yahui, like in this situation, like doing a PR for a focus area of ecosystem would be okay. You know what I mean? In this context. And so we could at least start with that.
Yeah, in that,
yeah, go ahead.
In that scenario, yes, I agree completely. Ecosystem, that would be a context area. And then productivity, robustness, and niche would probably be tags that describe the models within that context area.
Does that work, Yahui?
I can create a pull request for that.
Cool.
How about I create pull request for the all the repo structure to let you see how it works.
Yeah, could you just start with maybe just ecosystem? We could just do that first.
Sure.
Right on.
No problem.
Okay, cool.
All right.
So with this discussion, we have added one more layer as a context area and a focus area.
No, we're just doing context areas.
And there is no more focus area.
Well,
but the focus area is the context area.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are in a sense renaming the focus area to a context area, and
no, not necessarily.
Not necessarily. That's what I wrote, but it may not be it. Okay.
So I'm lost. Like
that out.
They're just called focus areas still, but he wants the focus areas to be like honed in on a particular context, like governance or ecosystem or community.
Yeah. So in the ecosystem example, so common uses the context area place, and maybe place is maybe that's too high level. So maybe we think of place instead of one focus area, which is place. Maybe we think of it as ecosystem. We think of it as project. We think of it as event. And then we have 3 focus areas that describe a place.
That makes sense, Vinod.
I am more lost now. I have to differentiate, like, because I participate more in the working groups, and they have a focus areas. So if I make it a context, and I'm still keeping the focus area, then we are having one more layer. If you are just
there's not one more layer. We need to. Can I stop us?
Yeah, please.
Before
I would like to cover the GSOC project areas if possible.
Yeah.
In this discussion, because GSOC starts next week, and I would like to talk about just briefly how we're going to organize the conversion rate, folks.
Yeah, we may have to do this through Slack if that's okay.
That's totally fine.
One of the things that I would like to just add to this conversation, and Kevin had brought this up too about GSOC students, is that it's important as mentors that the students who are participating in Google Summer of Code are not bound to each other, so that if one person does not do well, that doesn't bring the other person down as well. You know what I mean? So there must be an evaluation path that's individual for both people. And I think, Kevin, you had probably put those comments in there about splitting the project. I'm guessing that was you. About Grimoire Lab and Augur implementations, conversion
Yes, that was
rate.
me.
Yeah, so I think these are some suggestions as to how to split the work. But I think this is just a really important consideration for the evaluation process in GSOC.
I agree. I think it's critical. And we do have one student who is already working with Yahui in Grimoire Lab. And so I think that student ought to do that. And we can discuss the rest of it in Slack, I think. I'm open to any pathways that, don't tightly couple the two students' efforts with each other. To your point about effective mentoring, Matt.
Yeah.
Do we have time to hear Mabel's thoughts on this?
Labels? Thoughts?
Mabel.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I just messaged Kevin earlier today because I guess when I wrote my proposal and when I applied to GSOC, it was I don't know, I thought I was under the impression that the conversion rate was for one student. So I kind of wrote my proposal for one student, and then now it seems like two people are doing the thing. So I just wanted to know if anything has changed or about the project and how it's divided, or is that still being considered? Because I think if the students are working together at all or not working together, there should have been a meeting about conversion rate, just so we're all on the same page. That's just what I wanted to know.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair.
Yeah. 100% fair.
Yeah. So maybe, Mabel, when you had done your proposal, did you identify a particular technology like Grimoire Lab or Augur?
I did. It was mostly, I did something that would kind of work for both just in case, but it was more geared toward Grimoire Lab, and I'm wondering, should we change that, or see, I don't really know.
No, I mean, I
think from a mentoring perspective, we don't want to couple the two projects for the students so much. So, I mean, if two students are working on, I think that this particular metric model is actually fairly complicated conversion rate, and two different interpretations of it are valuable. However, they're implemented.
Also, I would say if you have a desire to implement it in Augur, I think that would be equally welcome.
Maybe I should chat with Mabel in Slack asynchronously.
Yeah, that would be fine.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Mabel, I don't want to, I guess I want to make sure that what you applied for
is what you're doing.
Is what was approved is what you're doing this summer. So
okay. Well, it seems like already we're kind of deviating from that, but that's okay. I mean, I just need to know.
We don't need to deviate from it.
That's completely fair, and we will undeviate from that to make sure that that does not deviate. So rest assured, we will work with you.
I think
yeah, go ahead.
If there is a deviation from it, I think that deviation should be completely up to Mabel. So we don't want to force you to deviate from it at all. And we selected you for the project that you applied for.
Right. Okay. I guess I'll just chat asynchronously.
I just sent a note to you, Mabel, saying hi.
Okay.
We want to make sure your project you proposed doesn't deviate.
And I just wanted to check, I guess this is a little bit of a tangent, but the mentors that have been assigned listed on the portal are just CHAOSS community, and then Kevin, and then Venu, but are they set in stone yet, or?
CHAOSS community is Sean.
Yeah, I'm Sean.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay, so
it's the function. It's a weird function of the way the portal works.
Okay, so it's Sean. Okay, so it's going to be, it's set in stone for those three people then.
It's not set in stone if you've got other ideas. I think the thing we want to be sensitive to, for example, is Yahui is mentoring another student, and he may not have the bandwidth to mentor two. So certainly Kevin and I and Vinod have a solid understanding of this. And if you come to these meetings, you'll have the context, if you will.
So Mabel, so Venu is
Venu, sorry.
Yeah, Venu is more focused on Grimoire Lab. He had worked at Bitergia and was really involved in really the Grimoire Lab stack for years. So if that's the direction you go, I would suspect that Venu would have a little bit more input. Sean just oh, okay, he just left.
Family
Oh,
appointment.
okay. I'll just talk to Sean later. It seems like he could be.
Yeah, and if it's Augur, it
one.
would be more leaning towards Sean. You know what I mean? So the mentors aren't, we had to be a little bit flexible on the mentors just because we weren't sure how the proposals would come in technology-wise.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Sure. Kind of. Okay. I guess
Well,
I'll
like
clarify with
if you're
Sean.
interested in working in Augur, you're going to be more closely aligned with Sean. If you're interested in working in Grimoire Lab, you'll be more closely aligned with Venu.
Okay.
Just because they kind of both have
Right.
expertise in those technologies in different ways.
Okay.
And those decisions are completely up to you.
Yes. Agreed.
Yeah. It's really up to your considerations.
Maybe I'll ping you as well in Slack.
Okay.
Just to make sure that this is all
Sure.
clear to you. So this isn't a one-time chat, and I'll talk to you in 2 weeks.
Okay.
All right, right on.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, sure. One tiny last thing. I know that we're over time, but we are starting CHAOSS Africa. So Ruth is going to be leading our efforts in Africa to build community there. I was going to propose that we kind of rebrand this group as opposed to just the Asia Pacific call, which is what it is, that we have CHAOSS Asia Pacific and we kind of recognize a community. It's really just a branding issue. I mean, Shoya, I know you have done a ton of work like around meetups in the past, and I think I'd like to take some time to recognize that as CHAOSS Asia Pacific, not just a phone call, not just a Zoom call that is branded Asia Pacific. So if you could just think about that, it might be nice to have kind of an identified person, that we recognize as kind of has worked in this area or has done things in the past or continues to do things in the future. It's a branding thing that I think would recognize the work that's being done here in a really great way. So think about it, and we can talk about it on the Asia Pacific call, the CHAOSS Asia Pacific Zoom meeting next week. You're muted, Yahui. So you were muted.
Okay. In the last Asia Pacific meeting, Elizabeth also mentioned it a little bit.
Great. I don't know what your thoughts are on it, but I hope they're positive. So, okay. Now, and then last thing for the next, I'm going to pick this up in asynchronously in Slack. I'd really like to, I went through the spreadsheet to identify metrics models and kind of where they're at with our new template. So there's some work that needs to be done to start building those definitions for the metrics models. And I was going to list that today, but we did some other work today. So I think we really need to start organizing the metrics models that we are working on and the ones that we have, that we get them in the proper template so that we can start kind of advancing them. And so I'll bring that up in Slack just today or tomorrow. Okay?
Okay.
Great on, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.